I'm gonna ask you a series of questions. I want you to respond truthfully. Have you ever hurt someone?
Yes.
Have you ever experienced anything you'd consider abnormal?
Yes.
Last question. Do you know what mutants are? Did you know baby rattlesnakes are more dangerous than adult ones? They haven't learned how to control how much venom they secrete. All of you are dangerous. That's why you're here.
What is this place?
This isn't a hospital. It's a haunted house.
You've been through a lot. Get some rest.
Hey everybody, we finally got our first look at the New Mutants. If you have no idea what's going on, this is Deadpool X-Men Universe, so this is coming from Fox, but it's a Marvel movie. Love the use of the Pink Floyd track in the trailer too. So I'll explain who the team is, what their powers are, but I am doing movie ticket giveaways for a couple of the movies that are coming up, so I'll just announce a new winner at the end of this. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber, leave a comment on this video. This is basically like their first attempt at doing a genuine horror movie with these characters, and I think that it's a brilliant idea. You don't want it to look like all those PG-13 X-Men movies, and the characters don't lend themselves to comedy as much as a character like Deadpool. They all flow from that Stranger Things vibe, which is kind of funny because the Stranger Things trailer for season 2 also dropped today. And there's actually one of the actors here, the person who's playing Cannonball, is actually one of the actors from Stranger Things. So things are even more meta than you could imagine. But the direct connection to the Deadpool movies is that Magic here is actually Colossus's younger sister. She can teleport, she's a great sorceress, so you're getting into alternate dimensions, you're getting into demons, different planes of existence. So because they were doing these characters, it just gave them the opportunity to do some more horror elements that they weren't able to do with the other X-Men movies. So you're starting to see the MCU and DC Comics do this with their movies too, where you have characters that lend themselves to particular genres and they're just branching out a little bit so that everything doesn't wind up looking the same. So I actually think this is going to be a legit awesome movie. But just based on the way that it looks like they're going for a Split vibe. Anya Taylor-Joy, who's playing Magic, was the main actress of Split, which also starred Professor Xavier in an amazing performance. If you haven't seen that movie, obviously it's not a comic book movie, but it's just legit awesome, so it's getting really meta here. We don't know which other big X-Men characters will pop up during this, but I think the idea is to keep it relatively self-contained because of the tone. Like you keep Deadpool relatively self-contained, but Deadpool 2 is going to have a little bit more crossover with the mainstream X-Men films. The New Mutants franchise, if it ends up getting a sequel, looks like it will tie in more with the Deadpool movies than it will with the mainstream X-Men films. But the whole idea with New Mutants in the comics is that they're like a very young version of the X-Men team. But the team is Maisie Williams as Wolfsbane. Everybody probably recognized her. She doesn't actually turn into a wolf during the trailer, but that's part of her abilities. Cannonball, who's the actor from Stranger Things that I talked about. You have Sunspot and then Mirage. And the actress who's playing this weird, creepy nurse is Cecilia Reyes, who's also a character from the X-Men comics. So she's a little bit different from her comic book persona. She's not quite so evil, but they're using her like a Nurse Ratched One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So in the way that Professor Xavier has Xavier's school, where he helps train and take care of mutants, they sort of trade that for this horror vibe with the insane asylum. So it's sort of a twisted version of Xavier's School where they're studying them. It's a lot more of a down and dirty Weapon X program. So remember, no matter which X-Men movie you're in, mutants are bad. People hate them. They persecute them, they test them, they turn them into weapons like with the Weapon X program. But I think the whole idea here is that they have to come together and form the team in order to get out. But the only real notable insane asylums in the comics are actually the Ravencroft Institute, and that's from the Spider-Man comics. So that's not where this place is. It looks like it's just some nameless place that they're pretending is an insane asylum, but secretly it's a place for them to test on mutants. Like Cecilia Reyes asked them in that opening dialogue, "Do you know what mutants are?" So if you're wondering what all those graves are in the opening montage, those are just the graves of children who have died as they've experimented on them. The fun really starts when she says, "Did you know that baby rattlesnakes are more dangerous than the adult ones?" So obviously, all the characters are the baby rattlesnakes. So if you were hoping for a really graphic X-Men movie, I feel like because this is a horror movie, it lends itself to that kind of gore. So think Deadpool, albeit with a slightly more serious tone. The most interesting thing I think though is how they will express their powers and what they'll look like on screen. I think they try to tone it down a little bit, but the way they're playing it, like they're pretending this is an insane asylum, so they think that they're just seeing all these crazy things happen around them and they can't explain them, till the end of the movie when they actually legit figure their powers out and go nuts on everybody. But just going through their powers, like I said, Magic can teleport, she's a sorceress. Wolfsbane transforms into a wolf-like creature, she's basically like a werewolf. Sunspot, as the name implies, can store solar energy and give it off, so he's like a big sunburst. Moonstar can create illusions and play on people's psychic fear. She has a form of psychic energy. And in the comics, Cecilia Reyes actually does have power. She can create this bio-generated force field, but I don't know if she's going to be super powered in this movie. That might be a change from the comics. But for the most part, even though they're in this really weird setting, they're relatively true to their comic book origins in the comics, so their powers, the way their characters work, that's all solid, but they sort of transplanted this into a Weapon X type program where they can just test on them and find the people that they want to use. But for the most part, I'm assuming that the movie takes place just at the insane asylum. Maybe they break out at the end and that's where they kind of tell you, okay, this is where this is located. This is what's going on with mutants in the world at this time. But they're being relatively ambiguous about the time frame this takes place in, just like the Deadpool movie. Like you can guess that that takes place relatively close to present day, but they're not being quite so specific like they are with the mainstream X-Men films where they say, okay, this is happening around Nixon, this is in the 70s, this is happening in the 80s, like the Dark Phoenix movie that's coming up, that will take place in the 80s. But a lot of these other movies, I think they're just choosing to have a little bit more fun with and be a little less on the nose. So as the title card implies, this is coming out in April, but obviously because it's a horror movie, they're releasing the trailer during October, the month of Halloween. They released it on Friday the 13th just to give it that really spooky vibe. They actually dropped this at midnight, so it was a little bit weird. I had to wait to do the video for it. But let me know in the comments, what do you think about them doing a legit horror film with Marvel characters? I mean, I love some of these actors in the movies they've been in before. Like, I'm a big fan of Maisie Williams, and Anya Taylor-Joy was amazing in Split. But I'm surprised that they haven't tried this before. I think that's just because the horror genre of movie is coming back. Stranger Things helped bring that back a little bit. And even though Marvel did movies like Blade, technically that's more of a vampire genre film, not so much straight up horror. We don't really know if they're going to attach a post-credit scene to this or they're going to try and tee up some sequel, but obviously being an X-Men Marvel movie, this lends itself to sequels, so I think the end of the movie will sort of give you an idea for where the characters are headed next, because the whole idea is they form the team during this first movie, then maybe they try to connect that to Professor Xavier. I'll be posting my non-spoilery Thor Ragnarok review next week once the embargo is up, so look out for that. My Stranger Things trailer will post in a couple hours. Congratulations to Devin Andrews, you're the latest giveaway winner. Please private message me on the back end of my channel so I can get your contact details. So while you wait for that, you can click here for brand new Thor Ragnarok, and you can click here for brand new Star Wars The Last Jedi. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.